Greetings, brothers. Welcome to the Blood Angels Commander channel.
I'm drinking whiskey. Why would I be drinking whiskey today? Hello. Hello. Good evening, everybody. How are you all? Nice to be here. Nice to see you. Loads of people in the chat tonight. So, Blood Angels got the tiniest of faction previews today. But with one hand they taketh, and the other hand they taketh away, right? They giveth and they taketh away. So yeah, we're gonna answer any questions. I've barely had a chance to read this. This came out when I was in meetings all day today. David starting the stream off with a $10 super chat. David, thank you so much for that. I do really appreciate it. Oh, £10, even better. We need the real money here, no dollars. That's even better. I'm not getting hammered, actually. I've had a couple of drinks today, but I'm not getting hammered. Yeah, we've discussed it all here before I got here. All right, cool. What you gotta Mike? You know what's happening. Tell me what's up. I've read the article. I've got it here. We'll read it together, and we'll take it from there. So obviously, I kind of skim read the other factions. So let me see if I make this a little bit bigger, yeah, so we can read it all. Okay. So basically, in 10th edition, from my understanding, is you can be a Blood Angel as a various detachments. Morgo coming in with 10 gifted subs. Well, thank you so much, Morgo. So every Space Marine is truly a legendary warrior. But even among the thousands or more chapters that exist, there are few who have earned the greatest fame. Of course, Blood Angels would need to be first on this list. Some date back to the fabled first founding, while others have earned their name through sheer excellence and unquestionable zeal. Regardless of the reason for renown, they fight in a way that sets them apart. These 5 chapters that stand... Oh, this is gonna distract me for a whole minute while they keep playing. Thank you so much for the gifted subs. The 5 chapters that are the stars of the penultimate faction focus. With so much to get through, we can only skim the surface. Yes, I'm a little bit worried that they have just skimmed the surface. But anyway, let's get into it, right? So, they started off by saying, though the methods of warfare may differ, the Dark Angels, the Space Wolf, the Blood Angels, the Black Templars, and Death Watch all draw from the same millennium-old training regimes. As such, they retain the Oath of Moment army rule. Each chapter is instead represented as a detachment with its own rule, enhancements, and stratagems. Morgo, thank you so much for the 25 Mexican dollars as well. I appreciate it. Welcome all the new members. Please, if you want to join our Discord, we are at like over 1,500 members now almost on Discord. Hit exclamation mark Discord. I'll get you the link into our Discord. Right, so Oath of Moment. I went back to the chapter focus and grabbed what Oath of Moment is. So, we get to retain Oath of Moment. So, if your army is adept as it starts, at the start of the command phase, select 1 unit from your opponent's army until the start of your next command phase. Each time a model from your army with this ability makes an attack that targets this enemy unit, you can reroll hits and you can reroll wounds. So, this is interesting in a way that, like, you know, this gives... They said that they were going to limit how much rerolls that certain armies could get, etc. That's what they talked about when they announced 10th edition. But what we've actually got here is arguably a better rule than a chapter master, I think. I wasn't sure we were going to get to keep this. I thought this was going to maybe be part of the Gladiatus detachment only, right? But we can pick 1 enemy unit, ideally probably the hardest to hit or hardest to kill enemy unit, and we can get full rerolls for every unit in our army that targets that unit. Both hits and wounds. So, Robert says it's going to be clutch against knights. I mean, it's going to be really good against... I mean, full hits and rerolls to hit and wound is crazy good anyway. Right? Happy preview day and fuck my Leviathans day, says Morgo. Yes, it's not... we'll touch on the we'll touch on the Horus Heresy changes at the very end. I'm trying to ignore them. So anyway, this is really strong. The fact that Blood Angels get this is very, very good. It's going to be very useful. The interesting thing is, like, Guilliman had a way in his data sheet to give multiple units Oath of Moment, but I think Oath of Moment is going to be very useful because it's not just going to be the combat phase, it's going to be everything. So if you've got an enemy unit you really need to bring down, you can shoot them with everything in your army. Bear in mind, Blood Angels don't do a lot of shooting. We'll do a little bit more shooting now, I think. And then we can hit them in combat with everything in our army. And that's going to be really useful, right? Like, I think Oath of Moment is generally going to be pretty strong. I like it as a concept. I typically think, like, when you give Chapter Master rerolls to, I don't know, a Sword of Sangre Guard or a Squad of Death Company, you're typically going after one enemy. The second you start splitting fire, what normally happens is you split all your fire and you don't kill any unit. It's like it's a unwritten rule of 40k. If you split fire, you don't kill either unit. So I think Oath of Moment is just going to guarantee that if there's something you need removed from the enemy's army, you're going to be able to do it, right? Okay, so, and then we get into the Blood Angels. We'll skip over Dark Angels. Dark Angels actually kind of look like they got the shaft a little bit. Space Wolves look a little bit interesting, but we're here to talk about Blood Angels, right? So, the Red Thirst, in a way, has been nerfed. I kind of expected it to be nerfed. I've been saying for a while I didn't think we were going to retain our +1 to wound. So in some ways I think it's been nerfed, but in some situations there's going to be no change. There's literally going to be no change. Bear with me. Imagine if you're fighting, I don't know, like let's say you're using Space Marine Intercessors and you're fighting, like, I don't know, other Space Marines. So Strength 4v Toughness 4. Well, now you're getting +1 to the strength when you charge. Now, it's important to note that this is only when you charge. It doesn't mention anything about heroic intervenes or being charged. So basically, only when you charge, you're getting +1 to strength and +1 attacks. So I think, in a way, that's basically meaning that, like, Shock Assault, I guess, is probably kind of gone for Marines. So in some ways, we're keeping Savage Echoes, which is a +1 to attack, but we're getting it from turn 1. So yes, we're not going to be as power spiky, potentially, in turn 3, 4, and 5, but we're going to be stronger in turn 1 and 2. And that was a huge bugbear of mine. I absolutely hated not being strong in turn 1 and 2. I hated having to take a Sanguinary Priest or burn all my command points to be strong in 1 and 2. Heroic Intervene is actually a charge. Is that right? Is that in the new rules? Did they mention that? I looked at the new rules briefly. I've had people visiting for work all week, so I haven't actually seen it. The Heroic Intervention counts as a charge, does it? Interesting. Okay. So then potentially it's better than I thought it was. But +1 to strength on the charge means that if in a situation you were equal strength as the enemy, then that's essentially the same as +1 to wound, right? Because you're now higher, so you end up getting +1 to wound. There's a bunch of situations where it doesn't help you, right? Like if you were a Thunderhammer going into like a high toughness armor, then +1 to the strength of the Thunderhammer makes no difference. But we never had a way to reroll hits and wounds before, right? Like we just did not have a way. A good example of that was like a Hecaton land fortress, right? Like Hecaton land fortresses were very difficult to kill. I feel like overall they were just like a nightmare. And now, I guess if you wanted to kill a Hecaton, you'd shoot everything at it, reroll hits and wounds. You charge it, reroll hits and wounds. What do I think the Sanguinary Priest will do now? That's a good question, Dylan, actually. If anyone wants to use their free super chat that's a member, you can click the little super chat button at the bottom near the chat box. If you've been a member of the channel, you get 1 super chat every month. So please use your free super chat in the stream and ask a question. If you've got something you want, if you want to catch my attention, do that. In 8th edition, the Sanguinary Priest gave an aura of +1 strength, if I remember correctly. He might have done something else. I was going to say, I think I have the 8th edition rulebook right here. 1 second. I might have it. Yeah, I've got it right here. I'm pretty sure the Sanguinary Priest gave +1 strength in an aura in 8th edition. Let me find it. Who knows what it's going to give now, but Sanguinary Priest. It's been a while since I looked at 8th edition book, that's for sure. I feel like he maybe did something else, but Sanguinary Priest. So you increased Blood Angels, Infantry, and Bikers strength by 1 if they were within 6 inches of the Sanguinary Priest. You've got my attention, Mike. What's the question? Do you fight first on Heroic Intervention? I'm not covering the fight first rules in this stream. We did cover them on the Grots, but I will make a video clarifying fight first. I don't have leaked rules in front of me. I don't want to answer a question that I'm not 100% sure on. I feel like if the opponent didn't charge you and you heroically intervened, you should fight first. I think that's how it worked before. So I think that's still the case, but let me clarify. Like, I'm not answering that question because I'm not 100%. Someone in chat will probably answer it. They're probably 100%. +1 strength is really good on strength 5 weapons, says Pandaman Pete. Well, anytime you're equal strength to their toughness, then it's essentially still +1 to wound. And if you were double their strength, or 1 less than double, then +1 strength is also +1 to wound. So there's a few situations now where Red Thirst is worse, but I actually don't think it's as bad as we thought it might be, right? Like, if the rule that we got, if we just got Red Thirst, +1 attack, +1 strength, and we didn't have Oath of Moment, then I would be saying I think we're in a worse place than we were before. Potentially. Bearing in mind, like, we don't need to wait around for 2 turns doing nothing with Red Thirst anymore, which is lovely. Because I kind of hate playing when you're forced to pick something, right? Like, Mark says, Heroic Intervention in 10th does not grant the benefits of having charge, so does not gain the fight first. It wouldn't gain the fight first, but if the opponents haven't charged either, Mark, then you would fight first. Because, yeah, we'll get into fight first in another stream. I'm not doing it here. Does Heroic Intervention count as a charge? Where are you reading that, Mike? Pana, thank you so much for the 10 euros. I appreciate it, dude. So I think because we get to keep Oath of Moment, and in your command phase, so usually in your command phase, you're going to know what's going to be the biggest problem for you to deal with. So in your command phase, you're just going to pick the enemy unit that you absolutely have to kill this turn, the one that you're going to be making charges against with, I don't know, I mean, think about it this way, Centurions. Well, there was basically no way to get rerolls on Centurions before because they weren't core, right? So, like, you could have Centurions. Centurions can be put in Strategic Reserve now for free, because Strategic Reserves work differently. I suppose you could even argue, like, Death Company Dreadnoughts before, like, not core, so they were arguably useless because no rerolls on them. Well, Death Company Dreadnoughts could reroll everything. So, and I was thinking about Dreadnoughts, right? Think about Dreadnoughts this way, right? A bunch of our Dreadnoughts, where's my 9th edition codex? Again, right, we don't know 100%. We don't know 100%. But, like, imagine a Death Company Dreadnought. A Death Company Dreadnought, if I remember correctly, is strength 6, right? Where is he? Furioso Dreadnought. Death Company Dreadnought. The Death Company Dreadnought is strength 6, right? So if you're using the Furioso Fist, that would be strength times 2. So that would be strength 12. So if you're attacking like a Land Raider, which is also toughness 12, then +1 strength and +1 attack here actually does still mean +1 to wound, because you would go to strength 13, i.e. you are more strength than the Land Raider, so you'll be wounding on a 3 rather than a 4. So there is going to be some cases, I guess like a Death Company Dreadnought is a good example, or like any Firstborn Dreadnought that's strength 6 with a Furioso Fist times 2, where... And Camille says 10th edition is going to be armor spam. Yeah, there's going to be armor spam potentially. So, like, Blood Angels with strength 13 fists on the Dreadnoughts might actually be really useful, right? Like, it might make a difference there. I guess, like, maybe you're not fighting... Even if you're fighting against strength 10 and you were using, like, the Blood Talons, well, toughness 10 with the Blood Talons, again, you would be +1. So, like, there's probably a bunch of cases here where this +1 strength is still pretty useful. The +1 attack being basically what Shock Assault has, only we don't have to wait 2 turns to get it, which is brilliant. And then Oath of Moment is really good as well. If anyone's got a question on any of that, ask it now, and then we'll move on to look at the Death Company Intercessors. They said the basic Dreadnought is gone, but the chapter ones, the Ironclad and Venerable, are still there. Yeah, what was the strength on the Ironclad before? Was it strength 6 as well? Let's check. Wouldn't it be strength 14? No, you add the +1 after the multiplication. For any unit like that where you have a multiplication and a +1, you always have to do the multiplication first. So you don't get to multiply the +1. So an Ironclad Dreadnought is strength 6. And I mean the Ironclad combat weapon is 2 times. The seismic hammer is 2 times. So arguably again, Ironclads going to strength 12 with +1 is better, right? Like that's an improvement as well. Strength 13 fist with tank shock means that you would roll 13 dice, and on every 5 up you get a mortal wound. So statistically, every time you charge with a Redemptor Dreadnought. Redemptor Dreadnoughts are another whole thing altogether because they're strength 14. I guess the +1 strength on a Redemptor Dreadnought is probably worse now, objectively. Like, the +1 to wound was really strong on Redemptor Dreadnought, so we knew that. +1 strength on a Redemptor isn't going to be that useful. +1 strength on an Ironclad or some sort of Firstborn Dreadnought or even a Venerable Dreadnought is probably going to be pretty good. So Death Company Dreadnoughts could be popular. Hell Furioso Dreadnoughts could be popular depending on the price. And then I suppose the other thing to consider is like all the Land Raiders, the Gladiators, all these things have melee profiles now, right? Like, and they're not bad melee profiles. I was going to say, I don't know if I can quickly pull up one of my older videos. I think I have one here. Let me pull one up with like the profiles from the armor that they shared. Do I have it? Well, I mean, let's just use a Rhino as an example. I had a Rhino here, and a Rhino before was 3 attacks, 4 up, strength 6. So, for example, a Rhino would become strength 7. I think like a Land Raider, it's strength 8, so it would become strength 9. Again, there's some breakpoints here where +1 strength isn't going to be that useful, but +1 attack is always going to be useful, especially where vehicles hit like a little bit more seriously or objectively. The interesting thing to consider, and this is the big thing to consider, like power fists and thunder hammers into armor or anything that's toughness 10 and above, that's going to be pretty rough. I think that thunder hammers and power fists into toughness 10 and above is going to be rough, but I mean, it might be countered by the fact that we can reroll the wounds, and who knows what stratagems we're going to get. Maybe there's a stratagem that gives +1 to wound on a single unit for a turn. Who knows? Rachel says, I'm not optimistic about most Marine Dreads, but we'll see. Well, I mean, I think they're going to make Marine Dreads better now, Rezio, because they've just deprecated all the Forge Roll Dreads. I imagine they're going to want people to use the new Primaris Dreadnoughts. I expect them to be better. I guess we'll see. Strength 9 Land Raiders and melee. There will be that. Heroic Intervention still doesn't count as charging, as it's the end of the strat text. Okay, so yeah, I think this makes it clearer, right? Where it's just like, if you charge +1 strength, +1 attack, because at the moment in 9th edition it was pretty unclear, you know, like people always forgot that Death Company didn't get the +1 if they got charged, and sometimes if you heroic intervention you would get them and sometimes you wouldn't, and it was all sort of nightmarish. Tank Shock is going to be really good on Dreadnoughts. Like, really, really good on Dreadnoughts. I see Toasty talking about it. Because, like, Toasty, you pick one weapon. It's probably actually worth reading Tank Shock, because I guess we get to roll an extra... So if... I was going to say, I don't know if I have Tank Shock in front of me. I was going to say, maybe it's in the leaks. PDF that came out like a few weeks ago. I don't know if I still have it. 10th edition leaks. I do have it. Tank Shock. It was near the bottom, right? What's the exact wording on Tank Shock? Select one vehicle from your army until end of the phase. After this unit ends a charge move, select one enemy within engagement range, then select one melee weapon your unit is equipped with, which would be, like, in the case of a Redemptor Dreadnought, your Strength 14 Fist. Roll a number of d6 equal to that weapon's strength characteristic. So I think you would still roll 14. You wouldn't get to include the +1 because it says equal to that weapon's strength. So you would roll 14 d6 if you charge with a Redemptor Dreadnought. If the strength characteristic is greater than the enemy's toughness, roll 2 additional. So you would actually roll 16 d6. On every 5 up, the enemy suffers a mortal wound. So I guess, like, if a Redemptor charges the enemy, you pay 1 CP, you roll 16d6, every 5 up is a mortal. Averaging from 16d6, you should probably average, like, 5 mortals. And then, DTM's saying as well, you don't actually get the +1 strength for Tank Shock. Yes, I think that's correct. But you would get +1 strength and then +1 attacks from his Red Thirst. So that's going to be no small amount of damage. Like, a Redemptor Dreadnought, I think, is scarier than they were before. I think Redemptor Dreadnoughts were good before. They have a better armor save now. They have a 2-up armor save now. They have toughness... I think the Ballistus has toughness 10? So I think it's probably going to be... A Redemptor's probably going to be toughness 10, 2-up armor save, AP is much lower, 12 wounds, and they're going to be nightmarish to deal with in melee. So, in some ways, that's cool. I think Blood Angels with Redemptor Dreadnoughts is cool. We'll see. I'm sure we're going to see quite a bit of that. Who do you think... I think our big epic hero will be? Mephiston Sanguiner or Dante? I mean, I think it's going to be Dante because they just put his model out. But he's not really a big epic hero. Like, he's just a Marine, toughness 4, etc., etc., right? Maybe one day we'll get a revamped Sanguiner or something that is more monster-like. I don't think Blood Angels are going to have any monster. I think they will bring back more Primarchs this edition, but I don't think we'll see... I think, basically, I think Valrak pointed out, over the last 5 years, we've had, like, 5 Primarchs. It's basically one a year. Like, this year it was the Lion... last year it was Angron. The year before that was it Mortarion. That would have been 2021 maybe. The year before that was it Magnus, and the year before that it was Guilliman. So literally since 2018 we've had 5 Primarchs. So we're literally getting 1 Primarch a year. I'm sure Valrak pointed that out. So I think what we can probably expect is no more Primarch this year, in that we just got the Lion. There'll be a new Primarch next year. It's probably going to be a Chaos one because they just did an Imperium one, right? Who knows if Blood Angels ever get anything equivalent of a Primarch? I'm not holding my breath, right? Reziel says we'll probably get Fulgrim. I think if you go watch Valrak, he probably already knows what Primarch's coming out next. Okay, let's move on to the Death Company. Let me make sure that you guys can read it all. Cool. So, I missed this sentence here. Let me just read it. The Blood Angels are perhaps the most beloved and respected chapter in the galaxy, known for their glorious self-sacrifice and willing to defend every one of the Imperium citizens. Yet despite this nobility, their gene seed harbours a terrible thaw. The Red Thirst urges them into acts of unbelievable violence in the heat of close combat. Yeah, we know. We're awesome in close combat. When the compulsion for blood red fully clouds the mind of a Blood Angel and transforms them into the infamous Black Rage, they're inducted into the Furlong ranks of the Death Company. It's interesting they said Furlong, which makes me think we might still get Furlong Fury, but I don't know. I thought that they might have the Scout rule, but they don't have the Scout rule, so I guess we're going to have to keep our fingers crossed and hope. Here they are shaped into a weapon of pure mindless fury, and only a dedicated chaplain can soothe enough to soothe them, I guess there's a missing word here, can soothe enough to accomplish basic battlefield tasks. So Death Company now have Objective Control 1. So they can control objectives, except each time this model makes an attack, you can reroll the hit rolls. So that's the bonus of Black Rage now. Before, Black Rage was what, +1 attack when you charged. Now it's just changed. It's like you can just reroll hit rolls with Death Company. That's like their border, like their base level of ability. While this unit is not within 12 inches of a friendly chaplain, it cannot be selected to fall back. I mean, you could never fall back at all in 9th edition, so this is essentially a buff. Controlling objectives is potentially a buff, but to do that, you need to be within 12 inches of a chaplain. Now, a lot of people run chaplains. There's the Primaris chaplain on the bike. He's kind of awesome. There was Lamartes, who was really awesome during the time we had the secondary Fury of the Lost. A lot of people love Astaroth, right? Like, Astaroth was one of the few characters that Blood Angels could get that could have a 4 damage weapon. It's always awesome to have like a high strength 4 damage weapon. Going back just 1 second to +1 strength on their weapon, and I was thinking about this for Dante. When Dante's 9th edition rules came out, I was thinking, oh man, his axe is strength 7, that's kind of crappy, right? Well, maybe it's not so crappy anymore if his axe is strength 7, but he's got +1 strength. +1 attacks. It's interesting. I mean, how many attacks do you think Dante will have? 8 or 9? Hard to say. But anyway, Death Company look like they're going to be... They're actually pretty darn useful if you're near... Well, they're rerolling all hits on Death Company is pretty nice. I don't run any Death Company Intercessors, but it could make Death Company Intercessors actually a little bit more interesting. Like, if you just want... Because transports are going to be way more popular. If you just want a squad full of chainswords for taking out, like, weak enemies, I don't know, strength... arguably, like, even strength 4, because chainswords for Death Company will be hitting at strength 5 with the +1 when they charge. You'll be getting 5 attacks per guy. So 5 attacks, full rerolls to hit. And then I guess strength 5 -1, 1 damage. It actually sounds pretty interesting. They also get Visions of Heresy, which just sounds cool. Once per turn, you can target this unit with the Fire Overwatch Stratagem and the Heroic Intervention Stratagem for 0 CP. So Death Company essentially become Sanguinary Guard in that they can just heroically intervene all over the place. Who knows what Sanguinary Guard will get? I guess we'll have to wait and see. But they keep their 6-up Feel No Pain. All these weapon options, close combat weapons, I guess, is if you give them like a actual like bolt rifle, you can just have no AP on your attacks, 3 attacks. Otherwise, you can have a Power Fist with 3 attacks, you can have a Power Weapon with 4 attacks, or you can have a Death Company Thunderhammer with 3 attacks. So it looks like Death Company have lost some attacks, potentially, because Black Rage is a bit different, but you are re-rolling everything. What's hard to say is, like, we need to see the back of the card. We need to see what weapon options are available, because we know Death Company Intercessors have been pretty limited. Do we still eligible to gain Gladiatus Task Force Detachment rules, Combat Doctrines? I do not think we would get Combat Doctrines, Jimmy. I think we get the Oath of Moment ability, which is we can get full rerolls to hit and wound against one enemy target, but we're not taking anything else from Gladiatus. Not their stratagems, not their enhancements, not their warlord traits. Rizzo says he kind of likes the Death Company Intercessors. I think this is the most attractive Death Company Intercessors ever have looked. I'm a little bit sad that they only have a 6-up Feel No Pain, because we talked a lot this edition how their 6-up Feel No Pain doesn't provide much survivability to them at all. But maybe if AP has been reduced around or across the board, we could see something useful. Being able to fire Overwatch for free, I mean, I don't think that's going to be all that useful with like bolt rifles. But, I mean, you are re-rolling all hits, so at least you are hitting on 6s and re-rolling everything. The Heroic Intervention is pretty cool, though. If regular Death Company get to re-roll hits and you can arm them the same as you can before, Scoops, with just like 5 guys with Infernal Pistols, that's kind of huge, actually. I suppose Infernal Pistols don't wound armor quite as easily as they did currently, or as they did before. But yeah, so it's interestingly showed the Death Company Intercessors, not the Firstborn, because obviously we all love the Firstborn, and if you compare like Death Company Intercessors against Firstborn Death Company, obviously the difference was Firstborn Death Company could have jump packs, Firstborn Death Company had one attack less. So that's what's got me like a little bit apprehensive about this, in that like these guys don't have, like, in 9th edition, if these guys had chain swords, they had 7 attacks. Now they're down to 4 attacks. I guess 5 if they charge. So these guys potentially lost 2 attacks. So Death Company with jump packs, if they've lost 2 attacks as well, that's quite a lot of like, comparatively speaking, if you just have 5 Death Company and they all had Thunderhammers, you're potentially going from like 25 attacks to 15 attacks. Yes, you are rerolling all hits, but that's quite a lot of attacks to lose. So maybe Death Company, they're not going to need as many buffs. They're maybe going to be able to hold objectives, but they're, you know, they're going to be less punchy, right? Like, that's what I'm seeing here, but obviously, I mean, I'm just guessing, I'm just interpreting from what I'm looking at, right? Because Firstborn Death Company in 9th edition with chain swords had 2 attacks base plus 1 for the chainsword, that would give them 3. 1 from Savage Echoes, that would give them 4. 1 from Shock Assault, that would give them 5. 1 from Black Rage, that would give them 6. So they had 6 before. Where in the Death Company Intercessors just had 1 extra, they just had 7. Jim, thank you so much for the gifted subs tonight. Guys, if you're enjoying tonight's stream or getting any value, please hit the like button. I do always appreciate it. And thank you so much for gifted subs. If you get a gifted sub, come join us in Discord. We have a members only room where people in green names can come and hang out, and I do try and chat in there every day. So come chat about 10th edition. Bless you indeed, James Richard. Thank you so much. So I would assume that Firstborn Death Company get the same Black Rage and the same Vision of Heresy. So if they do both get that, that's very cool. Maybe that means that there'll be a shift, you know, away from Thunderhammer Death Company into like Power Fists or Infernal Pistols, or a mix of both, because essentially Power Fists are, apart from the devastating wounds, they have the same number of attacks, and you can take a pistol as well. And if you can reroll the pistol shots, then that might be like a lot better. Plasma pistols, supercharged on Death Company, if you can reroll the hits, becomes much less scary as well, right? So yeah, I mean, maybe 5 plasma pistols, 5 power swords, or I think they're just calling them power weapons now. They're not necessarily calling them power swords. Or power fists might actually be really good as well. Okay, obviously, Death Company Intercessors can't have infernal pistols. I think that's probably like a mistake. I don't see any reason that Death Company Intercessors couldn't have infernal pistols. Remember, reroll hits do nothing for the new hazardous. Good point, DTM. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, I guess, okay, so reroll to hits on plasma pistols is not that good. The Death Company will get a free Overwatch shot. Potentially, yeah. And I guess they're going to reroll their hits on Overwatch as well. I guess, like, I was going to say, so what about, this is going to sound stupid, but it's potentially viable, Death Company with hand flamers and power weapons. Not many people run that. I hope you guys magnetize your Death Company arms. Firstborn Death Company with hand flamers and power weapons and free Overwatch. I mean, there's hand flamers. I feel like hand flamers are a bit useless because they're just strength 3. You need like some serious weight of fire to make that any to put any value into hand flamers. Okay, so this was the Death Company profile. The other things that we know, I mean, Death Company Intercessors move 6. Yes, please. I mean, could they just give these guys jump packs now and we'd be happy? Maybe. The Power Fists hit on 3s? There's a good point, I suppose. Power Fists do now hit on 3s. There's no -1 to hit on Power Fists. Did the Terminators had that as well? Yeah. So Power Fists and Infernal Pistols potentially is going to be really good. I was going to say, like, every time, I just finished those Death Company with hammers. I've made Death Company with Infernal Pistols and swords. I'm now going to need to make Death Company with Infernal Pistols and power Fists. It feels like maybe there's something that we don't know yet. The difference with a Thunderhammer being down to 2 damage, Pana, is every 6 to wound with a Thunderhammer converts all the damage into mortals. So if you on your wound roll 5 6s, that's 10 mortal wounds. And in some ways that might be better, I think, because the argument I was trying to make about that was like, see when you hit enemies with Thunderhammers, like with a Forlorn Fury, you typically go after really tough targets that have good invuln saves, right? Like usually your Death Company are hitting like a target that's like a 4-up invuln. So normally, like, you know, your Death Company jump forward to take out, let's just say, something tough that's got a 4-up invuln and like 15 wounds, maybe like use that land, the Hecatong land fortress for the Votan. And then the opponent makes like 6 saves and all of a sudden only 3 Thunderhammers go through and you only do 9 damage or something. And the Hecatong is fully fine and you're like, oh my god, my Death Company just bounced off. That was actually generally pretty bad. Whereas if you had the Death Company and you go in and you roll like 5 6s, suddenly it's like 10 mortals. Well, last time I checked, Hecatongs, I think, have no protection against mortal wounds. So Thunderhammers in some ways, I don't know if the -1 damage is going to be so much of an issue based on the fact that they can now do mortals. In some ways that might actually be better. It's hard to say. And if you're ever killing like -1 damage enemies, I don't know if we're going to see -1 damage enemies, but if you're ever killing like, you know, what were they called? Nurgle Terminators, think Blightlord Terminators, where they're like -1 damage, Thunderhammers were actually really ineffective against Blightlord Terminators. If all the damage is suddenly becoming mortal wounds, then that's pretty good because like Blightlords have no protection against mortals, right? But yeah, so Death Company Intercessors look interesting, but yeah, it's interesting that they showed them. They didn't show the back of the card. I mean, they showed the back of the card. I was going to say, I thought they showed it for the Hounds of Mordecai, but they didn't. And they didn't show Firstborn, which arguably most people play Firstborn. I actually don't know anyone that plays Death Company Intercessors. Like, I don't think I was going to say, I just checked. I did 116 episodes of the Army List show this year, or I guess it's once per week. So over 9th edition, we did 116 episodes of the Army List show. I feel like in that we maybe had like 2 people that had Death Company Intercessors. We had like 114 people that had Firstborn Death Company with jump packs. But like Death Company Intercessors, few and far between, right? Nothing has been shown to have -1 damage yet. That's probably a good thing. I didn't think the -1 damage was very balanced. Alright, let's move on to Gabriel Seth. And he was up for pre-order just this week, and I stupidly didn't pre-order him because I was thinking like, I'm not sure. And I read his rules here and I'm like, man, I think I should have pre-ordered him. I think I'm going to have to convert a character into Gabriel Seth. But anyway, let's look at Seth's rules. So many, and they kind of make it interesting on how you play Seth now. So many successor chapters have risen to fame, like the Flesh Tearers. Their chapter master Seth is a great example of the way named successor chapters work in the new edition. So this is how named successor chapters are going to work. There's not that many of them, but I guess let's just be clear here. So you gain all the benefits of your parents' chapter detachment without the ability to mix epic heroes. So my understanding is if you take Seth, then you cannot take any named Blood Angels characters. You can't take like Dante, Corbulo, I don't know if Tycho's getting a data sheet, but example, you just can't take any of them. But for all intensive purposes, you're just using Blood Angels rules. So you will, everywhere it says Blood Angels or anything like that, it doesn't really say that much, but you're just using the Blood Angels rules, so you just have Red Thirst. You don't have a unique Flesh Tearers detachment ability, you're using Oath of Moment. So, Gabriel Seth can be attached to an Assault Squad, a Command Squad, which is madness. I don't know why we still have Command Squads. No one runs them. I didn't even know they had data sheets, to be honest. I guess they're bringing those back, maybe? A Tactical Squad or Vanguard Veteran Squad. I think the obvious choice here, if you're playing Seth, is attach him to a Vanguard Veteran Squad, because I assume it's the same, they get more attacks than an Assault Squad. It says Flesh Tearers. This model is from the Flesh Tearers chapter, a successor of the Blood Angels. For all rule purposes, it's treated as a Blood Angels model, but cannot be included in an army that includes other Blood Angels epic hero models. So you take to become Flesh Tearers, all you do is take Seth, I guess. And you are a Blood Angel, but you run as Flesh Tearers. You're using the Blood Angels rules. You don't have your own unique Flesh Tearers rules. That's going to piss some people off because they think it's going to erode their chapter identity. I guess the reason they're doing that is to try and balance things better. So, for example, if the Blood Angels and the Flesh Tearers, if this +1 to Strength and Wound doesn't work out very good, they don't have to change 2 of them, they just have to balance 1 of them. I get it. In some ways, I suppose it means like any Blood Angels player can now just buy Seth and run him and have a Flesh Tearers army. The problem is they literally... The made to order ended on the 29th, so they put the preview out 4 days after the made to order end. I don't know the logic behind that, but that's that's what they've done. If they put this out 4 days before, I'd have probably bought Seth on the made to order, because I did actually buy one of those made to order characters. Anyway, Gabriel Seth. He moves 6. His movement has always been a problem. He's toughness 4, he's a 3-up save, he's 6 wounds, he's got leadership 6. He's got OC1, and I feel a little bit sad about this, that the big name special characters only count as a single model on the objective, just OC1. I guess that's fine. I thought maybe like a chapter master for an entire legion of Space Marines might have been allowed OC2 when like a friggin' Death Company guy is OC1, I guess. You know, like, surely Seth can hold the objective a little bit more, but I guess we'll see. So Seth has a bolt pistol, that's fine. He is Blood Reaver, which is his giant chainsword. It has kept 3 damage. It's kept strength 8, so I guess when he charges, that becomes strength 9. When he charges, he goes up to 7 attacks, -2, 3 damage. And sustained hits, which means every time he rolls a 6, he bursts an additional hit, right? Seth has lost the ability to fight twice, because that was like his big exciting rule, was like he could fight twice. It makes me question where, you know, we already know that like some of the World Eater stuff has lost the ability to fight twice, so maybe units that can fight twice has been removed or changed or just gone. I don't really know. Fight twice could always be a bit janky with extra movement you could get out of it. So Seth has lost the ability to fight twice. I think he had 6 attacks before. Let me check. I was just on the page. Gabriel Seth, he had 5 attacks, but obviously he would get +1 from charging. So yeah, I mean, he's lost a couple of attacks here, but he's hung on to strength. Sorry, he's hung on to his damage 3. And against, kind of like before, he would have had +1 to wound. So now he's got strength 9 chainsword. Pretty crazy, actually. Strength 9 chainsword. The interesting thing, I guess, so they removed his fight twice, and they've kind of fixed his movement. Because his movement, his Lord of Slaughter ability used to be Flesh Tearers within 6 inches of him, when they rolled a 6 to wound, they got +1 to their damage. So you could get like lightning claws, you could re-roll the hits, you could get 6s, you could potentially get a bunch of 2 damage lightning claws from Vanguard veterans. What they've done is they've made it that you are eligible to declare a charge in a turn which he advanced. And I think this is actually really interesting for Seth. We already talked a lot about people are going to run Land Raiders, people are going to run Impulsors. Well, now you can attach Seth to a Vanguard veteran squad. You can advance and charge out of one of these transports. And Seth maybe finally gains some of the maneuverability that he needed to make him viable. I guess losing the ability to fight twice sucks, but if you're never maneuverable enough to get to the enemy and fight them, then maybe this is better. Whirlwind of Gore was actually the ability to let him fight twice. It basically says, this is kind of like they've maybe removed his Warlord trait and like made it into this Whirlwind of Gore. So basically when he fights, you add 1 for every 5 enemy models within 6. typically that means most of the time you maybe add 1 or 2 attacks. Maybe if you're fighting like a very big horde army, you can add 4 or 5. Realistically, though, I think it's like 1 or 2 attacks. I think I did it against Sisters of Battle once. Remember when the Death Company captain could get additional attacks based on his death visions? I think one time I maybe got like 5 extra attacks when I was playing Sisters of Battle, and there was like 5 Battle Sister squads around you. But it's very niche. So I think most of the time Seth is going to have about 7 or 8 attacks maybe. He's obviously going to hit on 2s, and then he's going to be on strength 9. But he can now advance and charge. If you could only put Seth in a Terrax, that would be good, wouldn't it? 2 scoops. Our Warlord traits. So they've kind of said Warlord traits, I believe, are gone, but you're going to be able to pick some enhancements for your army. They haven't... I don't think they've shared anything about enhancements beyond they've told us multiple times there's going to be like 5 enhancements you can pick, and you can assign some of them to your forces before you start. But I don't think we've seen any enhancements. Maybe we've had... I've missed it if we have. Is anyone planning on running rhinos as transports? I mean, the rhino's cool now, right? It regenerates a wound every turn. I think we're going to see more rhinos. Let me catch up on chat. John's Dante will arrive before his painted boarding actions. Dante still hasn't been shipped for me. I'm well, do you know what? On the plus side, I was going to paint that laser destroyer. I guess I'm never going to do that now. I also have a super heavy tank. I guess I'm never going to paint now as well. So there's that. So I guess I'll have more time to paint Dante when that comes out. Okay, so that is Seth. They've said he's a blender in close combat. Throw him a huge mob of orc boys and watch the heads fly. Yeah, I mean, he was a blender before. Maybe not so much of a blender now. If you threw him at a mob of 15 orcs, he'd maybe get 10 attacks. Sustained hits, he maybe bursts 1 at other. So... it's a bit, like I said, it's a bit weird that they did the made to order and then they released his rules 4 days after the made to order, and now it's like, yeah, okay, I could actually see myself running Seth, I guess. I don't often run all the named characters other people want to run, and sometimes I actually kind of like the Primaris Chaplain on a bike. I think he's a cool character. I get a lot of mileage out of those like toughness 5 bike characters. I've been using them the whole way through 9th edition. I like them. I have another super heavy that isn't painted, James. It's the Cerberus. It's like half painted. So yeah, it is what it is. So yes, this is the Blood Angels preview. Anyone use your super chat if you want it. If you want to use your free super chat to ask me a question. They didn't give too much more. Obviously, they showed a bit about Templars. They showed a little bit about Deathwatch. You can read that yourselves. I'm not going to go into it in this stream. The one thing I am going to say in this stream is people have been saying for a while they think Reivers are going to potentially be good in 10th. They showed the Hounds of Morkai for the Space Wolves. Hounds of Morkai are basically a Space Wolf version of Reivers. They use the exact same kit. They are Reivers. The only difference is that they had like this special anti-psychic thing, and they had like maybe some custom heads, right? Looking at the profiles for the Hounds of Morkai, I think they look terrible. I'm going to be back in just 1 second. Yeah, sorry, my 2-year-old just had a little bit of a nightmare. Hounds of Mordecai, right? These are the Reivers. Like, let's have a quick look at them. They have a bolt pistol, right? With -1 AP. That's actually less AP than the Reivers have in 9th edition. They have AP2 in their bolt pistol. It has devastating wounds, which I guess means 6s do mortals. But you're only going to get like 5 attacks. So a squad of these guys are going to hit like 3 times out of 5 on average if their ballistic skill is 3 up. So you're going to maybe going to do 1 mortal wound when you shoot. The enemy's going to have to take a couple of saves at -1. So their shooting is gash, absolute gash. Their combat, again, they have devastating wounds. They might only have devastating wounds because they're the special Hounds of Mordecai. There's an argument here where regular Reivers might not even get devastating wounds. I feel like the only reason these guys have precision is because they're the Hounds of Mordecai. I feel like regular Reivers, I feel, are very unlikely to have precision, but they might have them. So yeah, they still have no AP on the combat weapons. They're strength 4. I guess for Blood Angels they'll be strength 5. But based on this, like, I've seen a bunch of people saying like, "Hey, we're buying Reivers because we think they're going to be good." I kind of think they're going to be gash. I don't. I think if I was a player of Space Wolves, I would not be running this squad in any way, shape, or form. Right, like, considering the other options that they have, I don't see any reason to run them. They get a 6-inch scout move. Well, I mean, they're wow, and then they can make an enemy take a battle shot test if they're Psyker. Again, that's likely to be because they're the Hounds of Mordecai. I guess we'll have to see, but this does not instill any confidence in me that Reivers are going to be a good squad, which is funny because I have 10 Reivers, and I would actually like to finish painting the second 5, but I'm not going to paint a unit that's not going to get any playtime, and that probably is a great segue into the changes today with the Horus Heresy models being discontinued or being removed from 40k or not getting rules into 40k. Does anyone have any last questions about the Blood Angel stuff before we talk for we're going to talk for like 2 minutes about the Horus Heresy stuff, because honestly I've got nothing positive to say about it, so I'm just going to talk about it for 2 minutes. My overwhelming emotion about it is I'm just sad. I worry for Mephiston, the signs are not encouraging. If Mephiston gets fight first, Reziel, I think he'll be really good. Because obviously if you fight first, if you are charged, you will fight before the charging unit now if you have the fight first. So if Mephiston gets Speed of the Primarch like baked into his profile, I think Mephiston might actually be really good. Kev says Reivers are dumb. All these weapons of the future and they choose a knife. I don't know why I found that so funny, Kevin, but thank you. Do you think we'll see Furioso Dreads now the Brutalis has kind of made the Furioso pattern available to every chapter? Do you think we'll... I'm not sure what you mean, Dova. Good evening, Adrian, how are you? Emil says, I think quick math says it's less punchy, but the full hit rerolls help. Yeah, full hits to wound and full hits to hit and wound rerolls are going to be very powerful. I think that's probably going to be the saving grace for Marine's army. George says, bye-bye Whirlwind. I think the regular Whirlwind will stay, George. I think it's just the Forge World variant of the Whirlwind that will be gone. I mean, I may as well bring the article up because we're kind of finished with the Blood Angels. If anyone's got any final Blood Angels questions, please just put them into the chat. I think it's this Legends of the Horus Heresy thing that people are looking at. What else have I missed? Kevin says, I'm referring to, of course, the Commander Dante. Yeah, I'm hoping to get Dante soon. You might as well buy one in the USA, and it would probably be quicker to buy one in the USA and ship it here at this point. It's a bit ridiculous. Yes. I don't think there's any other questions. Marine combat blades are sharpened to a singular molecular point. Yeah, I remember reading about that. The Eldar had blades that were supposed to be so fine they just go straight through the armor, right? Like the blades are so thin they can just basically penetrate right through the armor. Yeah, so Legends of the Horus Heresy. So these models are no longer able to be used in match play going forward. Leviathans, Contemptor, and Derodeo Dreadnoughts. I think they mean Relic Contemptors. I think if you have I think if you got the old Contemptor kit, or if you put a Contemptor with like a multi-melter, an assault cannon, and a fist, I think that'll be okay. So you maybe don't need to scrap your Contemptor models, you just need to go back to like the default weapon options. The Kratos, the Sicarian, the Spartan, the Cerberus, and the Typhoon Tanks. Yeah, the Cerberus is the one that I have half done. I'm either going to sell it or bin it, probably. Certain variants of the Land Raider, so like Reziel was hoping that he could run his Proteus. Other people were hoping they could run their Achilles. It sounds like you cannot. I just literally bought the Vindicator Laser Destroyer. I have never run it. I've literally never run it. I never will get to run it now because I kind of despise... I don't despise playing when it's not competitive, but I just don't like... I just enjoy the game when it's competitive. So yeah, the Vindicators, Laser Destroyers are gone. As such as, I think it's the Whirlwind Scorpius. I don't think the regular Whirlwind is included in here because the Whirlwind is obviously a data sheet in 10th edition. You've got a bunch of other models. Obviously, I own a bunch of these. The Falchion. The Falchion, I think, is the thing that has me the most sad because that's like... Blood Angels don't get a Primarch, so the Falchion was like the centerpiece of my army. I guess I'm literally never playing it again. And the Terrax. I just bought it. I just finished it. I just transferred it probably within the last month. I transferred it within the last month, so it was ready for 10th edition. I ran it in one tournament in 9th. I really enjoyed running it. I was looking forward to using it a bunch more times. I was excited to maybe put some Blade Guard inside it. I feel bad for anyone that bought a Mastodon. Also, people bought that Horus Heresy kit for the Spartan because they were like, oh, cool, plastic Spartan. I was like... The only reason I didn't buy the plastic Spartan probably was because I had quite a lot of stuff on my pile of shame. I would have probably bought the plastic Spartan. I was very likely to buy that Horus Heresy box set this year. So yeah, just be aware, guys. I saw some horror stories on Twitter about people honestly ordered like 2 Leviathans this week. I think if that was me, I would have tried to get a refund for it. If you don't play Horus Heresy, I don't play Horus Heresy. So yeah, I guess this is the units. I don't like. My initial reaction was I was kind of mad. I'm over it, but now I'm just feeling sad about it. I genuinely feel quite sad about it. I think for me it's more about the time invested as the money because like I'm time poor in terms of like I have 2 young kids. My hobby time is super limited. So if I just spend a lot of time building, painting, finishing something, to be told I can never play it again is difficult to take. So yeah, I don't want to focus on it. I've seen the reaction on Twitter. Like there was a tweet by Games Workshop and every single comment was negative. So hopefully they read some of that and maybe they can scale this back a bit. I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, the Falchion will remain undefeated. I'm going to play a game on Monday and I'm tempted to run the Falchion as like a final run out. Maybe we'll run the Falchion. Maybe I'll get to run the Laser Destroyer one time. Yeah, it seems very strange timing considering they just were starting to bring all these kits out in plastic. People are excited to buy these kits in plastic. I hate resin models. Like I actually genuinely hate them. They're a nightmare to work with. They're always warped. They take so much more time. Like I said, I'm literally time poor because I've got the kids. So because these things were now plastic, I'd have probably bought more weapon options. I'd have probably bought more. I don't know. I would have bought all the stuff. Now I'm not interested. And the stuff that I've got that's on that list that's half finished. Like I can't see any reason for me to ever finish that stuff now. Right? Like I'll probably sell it. Or I'll probably try and trade it for like some finished stuff that kind of matches my army. yeah, I don't think I would sell my falchion because like I spent so much time and effort on it. I think they actually spelt falchion wrong there. There's an H in it, but yeah, yeah, it's sad. Okay. The logic is there's too much Space Marine bloat, but I have 2 Forge World Leviathans, and it's half the cost of my entire army. Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of Space Marine bloat. I get that. But I loved what they've done with those new Terminators, where they took an old unit and they just made a better version of it. And arguably, I thought that was a really good way of, like, keeping the feel, or keeping the nostalgia, or keeping older players happy, but letting new players like jump in with new stuff. And like with those new Terminators, right? Like I have so many, like if I went and got my box out of like Bolter and like Power Fist or Chain Fist Terminators, I have so many of them. Like I probably have 50 Firstborn Terminators, but I'm getting 10 more later this month or next month with the new box set, right? And because they're letting me keep my 50, I'm totally happy to get the new ones, and over time maybe more of my squads will get painted as the new size or the bigger Terminators, because the bigger ones do look cooler, don't get me wrong. And maybe over time I'll find myself fielding my metal ones less frequently and fielding the new ones more often or something, right? I love that. I really did love that change. I really hope that they do that more often. But now a bunch of stuff just can't be run anymore, and I really hate it. And also, it really, like, I noticed they didn't mention like the Astraeus, you know, like the Primaris Astraeus tank. Technically isn't a Legend of Horus Heresy, but it's made by Forge World. So like for me, at some point, because I don't buy I want to say, like, I buy a Forge World model every 2 years, 3 years. Like, I'm, like, my main, like I said, I don't really like working with the resin models. I much prefer plastic glue. I don't end up sticking all my fingers together. So I buy a Forge World model every 2-3 years or something, because they're a lot of work as well, right? Like, they put, like, I already got a giant pile of shame. So buying a Forge World model just pushes everything back 6 months. Dirty Wizard, thank you so much for 10 gifted subs. You guys are killing it tonight. I appreciate all the support. Thank you so much. Am I now going to buy an Astraeus? I don't actually even know how much an Astraeus is, but like a big Forge World tank like that is probably like $250 UK. 265 UK. Like, this is a big investment. Am I going to buy that if there's a chance it just suddenly becomes Legends? You know, like, what? Yeah, that's my other... You know, like, I do want one of these. I've actually run one of these to a tournament in 9th edition. Andrew let me borrow his one. And it was pretty fun. Like, I like running super heavy tanks. As a Blood Angels player, we don't have any Primarch. We don't have any monster we can run. So the only real option is to run something like this. It'll be legal outside all competitions. Yeah, but Reziel, I don't care about non-competition play. Like, I played one game of, what was it, Tempest of War? And I was like, I don't like this. Like, for me, it needs to be... You know, my channel's all about how to beat other people. That's what I get off on. That's what I want to do. I want to know how to beat people, especially those filthy Xenos, like Miles. Hopefully Miles didn't hear that. He's not in the chat. Especially Gav, with his filthy Votan. Like, I want to beat them. I want to play competitively. I want to beat them. I don't want to run things that... Like, I'm just not... Basically, I am not going to run anything that's Legends, because it's going to benefit me. Like, I'm going to gain no benefit if I go to a tournament, because I'm going to not have any experience playing with that. Dylan just literally bought a Blood Angels Leviathan. I'm sorry, Dylan. I mean, it's yeah, it's a tough one. Most people don't play competitions. Well, that's fair. If you don't play competitions, fine. Then hopefully you can, like Dylan just bought a Leviathan Dreadnought. Hopefully you can build the Dreadnought, enjoy it, paint it, have it. For me, it just instantly adds like a big devaluation to the model. I'm just sad about it. Yeah. But don't, I mean, I don't really want to touch on it any more than that. I don't want to cause any drama. I don't want to be negative on it. I'm just sad, man. I like those big models. I never felt, as someone who's run super heavy tanks a lot with Blood Angels, like I've never gone to a tournament and like wiped the floor with a super heavy tank. I've played against Imperial Guard players actually at tournaments as well who have had super heavies. I've played against Tyranid players that have had super heavies. Typically, if you're taking a super heavy to an event, you're going to have fun. You're not going to win an event with a super heavy tank. If you win an event with a super heavy tank, then yes, maybe the rules are broken. But we all know Forge World stuff is like 20% more expensive. Like, no one's winning an event with a Thunderhawk gunship. I mean, arguably, I guess you could still field a Thunderhawk gunship. They didn't say that was legended. I guess Tony will be happy. But yeah, you're not winning an event with a Thunderhawk gunship. If you do, it just means everybody took in a Thunderhawk gunship. I don't know. Yeah, are Death Company Dreadnoughts still fine? Yes, they will be. And obviously Brutalis Dreadnoughts are fine as well. Death Company Dreadnoughts, well, I was going to say, there might be a couple of things made legends from Blood Angels. I don't know if anything from Blood Angels is getting made legends. I thought Tycho might get made legends. I actually thought Seth might get made legends because he's only made to order now. So, hard to say. I'm sorry to hear about your loss, Dirty Wizard. Thank you so much for coming in and hitting up the gifted subs. Yeah, it can be tough to lose family members. I've been there, man. I'm sorry to hear about your loss. Anyway. On the surface, though, I feel like Blood Angels... I think this is as good as we could have hoped for Blood Angels. We didn't get much of a preview. I've got a video coming out tomorrow, actually. So, tomorrow morning, 1 PM... I'm actually glad I made this video beforehand because it means that it's all a very positive video where I look at the Indomitus box. That's 3 years ago. I look at the Leviathan box. So tomorrow morning's video coming out at 1 PM. Leviathan. I'm going to go into every single unit that's being released in Leviathan. I'm going to rate it out of 10 and I'm going to tell you how useful it is for Blood Angels, or how useful I think it is for Blood Angels, and how useful it is depending on your player journey. So if you're a new player, should you buy the Leviathan box? If you're an experienced player, should you buy the box? That's coming out tomorrow. And then this weekend, there's no Army List show, guys. That's because I'm out of town. But next Sunday is going to be our live judging of this year's painting competition. So Sunday the 11th, put it in your calendar. I think we're going to be live at 9:30, but I'll announce the exact time a bit closer to it. Gladius is still a better rule for us with advance and charge. Well, I mean, I guess that's the flexibility now, George, is that I guess that's why they've changed everything. So you could pick a different detachment if you don't like the Blood Angels +1 strength, +1 attack. Like I said, there's going to be some breakpoints where +1 strength, +1 attack is actually really good. And I guess if your character or your force hit those breakpoints, for example, I don't know, let's say you had power swords. So if you were power swords into toughness 3 enemies, you'd wound on 3s, so that +1 strength is going to put you to strength 6, so all of a sudden now you wound toughness 3 enemies on 2s. So in most situations there's going to be breakpoints where +1 strength is just as good as +1 wound used to be, and the +1 attack is also going to be pretty good, right? Jim wants Primaris Tycho. I think you're going to have to... I don't think that'll ever happen, but who knows? Yep. So I was going to say, I don't know if there's going to be another preview of Blood Angels coming out, but there will be the indexes coming out in June. So I'll be here whenever new Blood Angel stuff comes out. We'll get some live streams on, we'll get some videos out, and thanks for everybody that dropped past to watch tonight's stream. Please hit the like button before you leave. And if you've got any questions, you can leave them in the comments. I'll generally reply to all of them. It might just take me a couple of days. And it makes you wound Terminators on 3s as well. Would it? Yeah, they're very true. Power Swords would be Strength 5. Terminators are Toughness 5. So +1 Strength would mean Power Swords would wound the new Terminators on 3s. So yeah, good point, Antonio. There's going to be breakpoints with +1 strength. So, and then you got to remember we're going to be able to reroll all hits and all wounds into some army, and lieutenants might have some good use as well. You're absolutely right, because lieutenants give you, is it lethal hits? So you get auto wounds if you add a lieutenant to the squads. S3 Nix says that he thinks indexes will be released in the next few days. Well, I'm not going to be making any more tactics content on 9th edition at this point. I'm not doing any more army list shows on 9th edition at this point. So I was about to go start. It was so funny. I literally had 4 Death Company in front of me and a laser destroyer, and I was going to do it whichever order. And I did the Death Company first. Thank God I did the Death Company first. Otherwise, I'd literally be sitting here going, I spent the last 2 weeks doing a laser destroyer that's never going to get used. So yeah, enjoy your night, guys. Thanks for hanging out. I'll be back as soon as there's more Blood Angel stuff. And there's a new video tomorrow. Have I had my Dante yet? No, I'm still waiting. It said it was supposed to dispatch today, but it didn't dispatch today. But I did hear somewhere else in the UK, I think it was Dark Star Games, apparently have Dante in stock now. So if you wanted to, if you're desperate, you could cancel your Element games and look, I think it was Dark Star. I've used Dark Star before a while ago for, someone said it was Dante was only $18.99 on Dark Star. I don't know. I didn't actually research it until you just asked me here now. No, there is no, do I have to search Commander Dante? No, apparently. Oh, well, I don't know. I think someone in Discord said Dante was in stock in the UK for $18.99. Yeah, cool. Okay, enjoy your evening, guys. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.